Everybody, welcome back to Langston's Bookiverse. Um, so today I'm gonna do a wrap up for all of the books that I read in March. I didn't do a lot of reading for March. I feel like maybe I I feel like I didn't really get into like the swing of things, like a good reading um, groove until like mid March. So that's probably why there's only like or actually there's four. So yeah, that's fine. Um, but oh well, that's fine. Right, we're busy. You can't read all the time. So, yeah, that's it. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, the first book that I read is Parable of Talents by Octavia Butler. Um, there were actually three narrators for this book, and they're narrators for different points of view of, or they're narrators talking about the points of view of three different characters. Um, so you had Patricia Floyd, who was one narrator, who I believe that was she voiced the main narration as well as she did the reading for Olamina. Um, Peter J. Fernandez is the second narrator, and he did the voice for Ben Cole, as well as there are some transcripts that the character Ben Cole makes, so he reads those transcripts. And then the third narrator is Cece Aisha Johnson, and she voices the Olamina and Ben Cole's daughter. Um, I cannot remember the name of their daughter, but I'll I'll see if I can post the name somewhere around here, so it's fine. Um, but yeah, so overall, I loved it. I think I gave it five. Yeah, I gave it 5 stars. Um, Man, this thing was sad. Ooh, okay, yeah, I should probably put a warning for mild spoilers. I'm gonna try not to get. I'm gonna do my best to not get too into these, uh, into these plots. Um, but yeah, I thought it was so great. Like picking up from where the first book in the series went off. And so you have basically Olamina, and I'm gonna talk as if you've sort of read the first book already. So Olamina and Bengole have really been developing their community that they started, Acorn, and they have about I want to say they had like 50, maybe 60 people in their community at the beginning of the book. So I thought that was great because in the at the end of the last book, I think they only had like 7, something like that. So it's really amazing to see how like at the opening of the book, you have like, oh wow, we went from 7 to like 50 something. That's awesome. And so it sort of picks up from there. Like the community of Acorn has been pretty established. Earthseed, which is their their religion, is gaining a little more popularity, and there is also a new president or a president elect. I'm sorry, actually, a candidate for president. That's better. A candidate for president who is currently running, which sounds a lot like a certain orange president that we had here in the United States, unfortunately. This president this guy who eventually does become president, that's fine, I don't mind saying that. The guy who eventually does become president, even one of his campaign slogans is to make America great again. So I sort of shuddered at that part. Of the story because I was like, oh no, don't do this to me. I'm getting flashbacks. But yeah. Yeah, it was like this is too relatable. Don't I want to skip over this dude. Uh, but so you see how the characters struggle with and fight these challenges that come up from the rest of the country as viewing them as basically a cult. And typically, what happens when a large group of people do not understand a certain religion, they tend to make a bunch of negative assumptions about them, saying that they worship Satan, they kill or rape children, eat babies, all of that stuff is sort of thrown in is in the book. Um, so you see them sort of you see how they sort of confront the rumors that are being spread about them and their community and their religion. Um, and I think it gets really, really interesting when I won't spoil this, but there is a character that shows up later in the book, and it's the story to me just gets much more interesting and much more like I don't want to say messy. Messy is not the right word, but more sad, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of the right word that I want to say, but yeah. So you do see all of that happening, and then the ending of the book broke me. I'm not gonna lie. Um, excuse me. The ending of the book definitely broke me because of where all of the characters end up. Um, and I may go into like a full spoiler review of this because I really, really enjoyed it. So that may be something that I do, that I think I'll do in the future with books that I really enjoy so much, or that really moved me. Yeah, I think I'll do like a whole, like a deep dive, bunch of spoilers review, just because I need to talk about it. So yeah, look out for that in the future. So yeah, that was the Parable of Talents. I definitely recommend it. Um, I will say, I should preface this before I go on to the next book. I will say if you do have issues with rape, sexual assault, um, violence in general, slavery, if that stuff just does not appeal to you, I would not recommend reading that. I do have a few friends in particular who are just like, if stuff gets too graphic, they're just turned off by it, and they can't deal with it. I will say, if you are someone who doesn't who does not want to read a book that has rape in it, that has like graphic descriptions of what's going on, this book does not have that. At least from when I was reading it, it's more a statement of what's happened, or what has already happened, rather than describing and going into detail about the event. So, for I'll use one example from the book. A character comes across a young woman, and sort of rescues her, and later, like in like the next chapter, Olamina says in the book something along the lines of her Benkole, her husband, confirmed that she was raped, that she had all of the typical symptoms and damage and physical damage of being raped. So, and that's pretty much yeah, I'm fairly certain that's as far as it goes. So if something like that is okay with you, like not that rape is okay, but like you know what I'm trying to say. If if that is something you can handle, if that level is something you can handle, then I'd say you're good. But yeah, if you are someone who is just like don't like don't like hearing about it in any medium or any book that you read, I'd stay away from it. So yeah, that was the Parable of Talents. The next book is The Lies of Tao by Wesley Chu. I really enjoyed this. I also give it 5 stars. Um, so this is like it's sort of like a it's like a super spy story meets aliens. If that make like and I guess that whole premise I guess I've just never come across that in my old age. But it was so interesting to me. So basically, this dude named Tao, um, he unexpectedly gets not possessed, but an alien pretty much inhabits his body, and he and the alien are bound together. Tao still has control over his body and his thoughts and all that, but the alien can sort of help him maneuver through his life and help him make better choices and decisions, while also the alien is a part of a super spy network that is fighting this other group of aliens. And like, yeah, the aliens are the same species, but they have they disagree on some pretty big topics. And so they are fighting this like huge war that spans across the entirety, like most of human history. Um, and I really like I really like how you can see the character's growth throughout the book, because at the beginning of the book, he's sort of like he's really unsure of himself. He's at this job that he hates. Um, there's this girl at work that he likes, but he's always psyching himself out, despite the fact that the woman seems really interested in him. Um, he's always finding an excuse to not not really make that leap into a more romantic relationship. Um, so the oh, I'm sorry. I just remembered. I just realized the character's name is not Tao. Tao is the name of the alien. I am so sorry. The main character's name is Rowan. Um, excuse me. So yeah, I'll make that correction at that time. At that when I first mentioned it. But so yeah, Rowan is really unconfident. Um, doesn't have the best diet. Um, it does not overall just does not feel good about himself. And so uh, the alien Tao sort of helps him become more of a better version of himself. But there's like a lot of action. There's a lot of fight scenes. There's like training, not a training montage. Well, yeah, sort of like a training montage. Um, I guess one thing is I do wish that the book dove a little bit into the martial arts that the character Rowan was learning. Maybe that'll be. I think there's another book in the series, so maybe it'll cover that then. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I do want to preface that I do think the main character Rowan has some some misogynistic tendencies, and it popped up every now and then, and I was like, oh man, don't that ain't right, don't do that. So actually, I'm curious what, for those of you who have read it, I'm curious what y'all have to say about it, because there were parts of it where I was like, really, that's weird, man. But whatever. Um, but so yeah, overall, I still really enjoyed the book. I cannot wait to read the second one. The next book that I read was Firebreak by Nicole Corner Stace. I've already done a review of this, so feel free to go and check that out. I'll see if I can put a link to that video somewhere around here. But so basically, this takes place in a dystopian version of Earth, where the United States have the United States government has given up control of the states to corporations. So when this first started happening, the U.S. gave each state to one specific company, and so you had the 50 states governed by 50 companies separately. And then over time, what happens is, as a lot of companies do, they merge. So in this time period, which the year is 2134. So in this time, there are really two companies that control the United States. Excuse me. And they each control different cities throughout the United States. The city that this place that the city that the story is set in is controlled by both companies. Half is controlled by one, the other half another, and the companies are pretty much at war all the time. So they'll just be like random fighting all throughout the city. And the people can't really do much about it. They are company employees, so they get their water from the company. They have to pay for their water. They have to pay for their food from this one company that controls every aspect of their lives. I can't relate to that at all. Stop me if you can relate. But it's really interesting seeing how the main character Mallory, who she's managed to eke out some type of a living, being a streamer on this platform, this social media platform. And so she and her best friend, they managed to scrape by and get enough money by getting donations from their streamers. And eventually they start uncovering, they get recruited by this mystery woman to find out what happened to this little girl that the mystery woman knew a long time ago. And they pretty much stumble upon this conspiracy, and you see how they initially respond to the conspiracy, pretty much saying, this is some bullshit, none of this is real, that's too crazy. And you see that progression of like, oh crap, this really is happening, like this really happened, this is wild. And how they have to protect themselves from the powers that be. So I can't remember if I said already, I gave it 5 stars. I highly recommend it. I think I said in my review that I hope it sort of turns into a series. I kind of hope Netflix or somebody picks it up, because I think that would be a really entertaining show. The last book that I read, is 16th Watch by Mike Cole, with Mia Baron as the narrator. I believe I can't remember right now, but hopefully future me that's doing this editing right now will remember if I've done a review for this book or not. But It's about this woman who is a member of the Coast Guard. It's set in the future, um, when um, a lot of the countries on Earth have are working on mining the moon for resources, and so what's actually popped up as a result of this is a sport by the U.S. military on boarding spaceships. So would one team would be assigned would try to board the other spaceship. The other team would try to like disable the team that's coming to board them. It's a really cool idea. It's something just very appealing about that to me. I'm not sure what. Um, but so the captain's name is Jane Oliver. You learn very early on that she's lost her husband in a small skirmish that broke out on the moon a while ago, and she's called the Widow Jane by everyone in the military. Um, and she's sort of tasked with preventing things from escalating into a war between the United States and China, which they said throughout the book that both of these countries are nuclear powers, and this will not be a good thing for anyone if these two countries are at war. And one thing that Jane says a lot is that y'all are crazy if you think that this potential war is just going to be in space. Everybody is at risk on Earth, um, it's so interesting seeing her expertise and everything be used. But she's mainly tasked with training this team of Coast Guard members to compete in these games, and excuse me, and by winning the games, convince I guess the larger, I guess like U.S. officials and military leaders and politicians that the Coast Guard is better able to handle these to handle and de-escalate the skirmishes that might break out, and reduce the amount of conflict compared to the other military branch, which I believe is the Marines. So I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. If you love some like space stuff, if you love space and you love like military narratives, which I never thought I was a big military story type of guy, but I loved it so much. So if that's your thing, if that's your zhuzh, I definitely recommend it. So thank you all so much for watching this. Wow, this is kind of long. Well, not really. I don't know. Whatever. But thank you all so much for watching this. And let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know how you felt about them in the comments. I really appreciate you guys leaving comments because I like responding back and talking to you guys about some stuff. So yeah, I will try to see if I can post my next TBR sometime soon. So be on the lookout for that. And I guess with that, I'll see you guys later. Bye.